I had my own bow, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to hunt with this thing and try my hand at it. And so then, I went through the whole hunter's ed process. Yeah, it's magic. It's just witchcraft. Like, if like a shaman, like, blessing them before their hunt. I don't know what they're doing. And I'm getting close, and I'm like 90 yards. I'm like, this is freaking sweet. And a freaking helicopter comes flying up the bottom and like flies right over the herd. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I go to shows and get to talk to people about camo and, be just an ambassador for the brand, for the women's brand. This is basically just like technical gear. This isn't clothes. I'm like, it's exactly what it is. It's gear. Like, your clothing is your gear. I mean, you're spot on. I seriously look like Sasquatch out there, just squatching around in the field, just walking right up to him, like all willy-nilly, and he just shoots him. So I'm belly crawling, and I get close, and the freaking decoy pops out, and it comes open. I mean, I had a bull bugle like a foot away from me in my face. Coolest freaking thing ever. I mean, and that was like one of my first experiences. I'll never forget that. And like, that sound still like pierces my ears. This is Sadie Kennel, and you're listening to Living Country in the City, episode 34.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Hey y'all, welcome to episode 34 of Living Country in the City. Hopefully all seasons have started off with a bang, or a twang, I suppose, or a snap. I don't know, how would you describe the sound of bow? Well, let's just say I hope you've had a great start to your season. As of the date this is being recorded, I'm about a week out from my trip to chase Idaho elk with my bow, and I'll tell you one thing, I could not be more excited or anxious to get out there. So I hope you all be wishing me luck, because I'm going to need as much of it as I can possibly get. Now, today I'm chatting with Sadie Kennel out of Idaho. Sadie is Women's Ambassador for Sitka, Brand Ambassador for Swarovski, and Idaho Regional Rep for Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. A lot of fun to chat with. Sadie, thank you so much for hopping on the show with me today.
Always, yeah. I'm excited to be talking to you.
So I always like to start out with just a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got your start in hunting and the outdoors.
Okay. So I am from Idaho, born and raised here. I didn't, like most people, grow up hunting with their dads or whatever, and I actually didn't do that. I got into it later in life, about when I was 18, and I got into bows and shooting, archery and stuff like that a little bit younger in high school, and I thought that was really cool. And then I met some people that hunted with bows, and I was like, well, that's even cooler. Like, I want to go do that. And I always wanted to hunt. I grew up around it. Grandpa did it, Dad did it, but I never got the opportunity to. So then later on, and then I had a boyfriend or two that kind of showed me the ropes, and got lucky that way, and had some friends that were nice enough to show me basically how to hike in the woods with a bow, and just kind of slowly learned from there. And so now I'm here. My boyfriend now calls me bow hunting purist, because rifles are pretty new to me. So he's taught me quite a bit about rifle hunting the last few years. And like tonight, I just I got my rifle and just got my scope on it. So I'm still fairly new to it. From what most people say, a lot of people have like years and years on me, and I'd probably have like 10 at this point. So.
Well, I was going to say, so this is probably a little bit of the reverse for you, talking with me, who has, about 2 weeks under his belt of sitting in a tree stand, and then...
No, that's cool, though. I mean, like, most people, like, I feel like a lot of people that do podcasts just are curious and want to learn. So they start interviewing people, and then they're like, hey, this is cool. Let's turn it into a podcast, because they're always interesting conversations. And I mean, I think it's a less intimidating view from, a listener standpoint, to be able to like listen to somebody who's maybe on the same level as them and learning the same things. And maybe you're asking the same questions that they might be curious about. So.
Well, that's part of the reason why I started this whole thing is like, I started listening to podcasts that had nothing to do with hunting fairly recently, and then all of a sudden I had this grand idea. It's like, wow, I'm really interested in learning hunting. I should probably actually download some podcasts that have something to do with it. And there's a few I kind of downloaded. I think Jay Scott may have been one of my first ones. I started listening to it. I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, I have no clue what's going on right now. Mm-hmm. Like, because he's super informative, but it's so technical sometimes. And then, I talked to some of my buddies, and I got recommendations, and I started listening to Gritty. I started listening to Rich Outdoors and a lot of these guys, and you know, especially Cody Rich, you can sense his like excitement and curiosity talking about that, and that was part of the reason why I wanted to do that, is I really wanted to reach out to people like myself and give them an opportunity to kind of ask the dumb questions through me.
No, that's awesome. I mean, and most people are too intimidated. You know, everybody's a professional now, and nobody wants to ask the dumb questions. Nobody wants to ask the easy stuff. I was the same way. I'm like, I should know this, right? Like everybody else knows it. I feel stupid asking it. So, I mean, that's really cool. It's very admirable of you to put yourself out there as the guinea pig.
Oh yeah, I've definitely had to. You know, I'm a big tough dude like all of them, and I like to feel like I know everything and be an expert, but I promised myself before I started this that I would always be willing to ask those questions and not present myself in a way that just wasn't real and wasn't myself, and so that's always, I think, given me the ability to swallow my pride a little bit. And
Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's you're learning that now. I mean, there's a lot of guys out there who are just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go pick up a bow and go hunt, and don't swallow their pride before they start that. And you know, their bad things happen, or wounded animals happen because of dumb mistakes, or you know, all sorts of stupid stuff, and mistakes that didn't need to happen because they were too proud and just wanted to be the best and wanted to be the expert. But I think once you get that like humble point, you know, even before you start, it's perfect. I mean, that's a good way to be. Like, I didn't know how to act. Like, when I started, all this like social media and stuff, it was kind of there, but it wasn't as strong as it is now. And so I didn't feel like I needed to be this badass whoever. I just needed to like, I just wanted to go out there. You know, I was kind of like bebopping around, walking down trails and stuff, not knowing what I was doing, carrying a bow around, wearing some like cheap camo. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And yeah, so that's really awesome.
Well, if nothing else, like that's a great way to start. You know, it's
for sure.
With all the social media, it's kind of tough now, and I catch myself doing it where, I mean, admittedly, like I had some money saved up that I made a choice to spend to get ready and, you know, buy a little bit nicer stuff. But I think when you look at all of this, it's really easy to find yourself thinking, I need this to be successful. And I have to remind myself now, kind of when I'm at the point where I'm coming down to the line with certain things and I'm having to, you know, I'm pretty much having to go with what I got at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm
like, perfect.
And I think to myself, like, oh, I didn't get this belt pouch I wanted. How can I be so stupid? Everything's falling apart.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
really?
I get it. And like, you know, that's what the market's for. I mean, it's to sell the best of whatever the best is to everybody else who needs it and wants it. And yeah, I do the same thing. I use the best gear I can find, but I spend enough days on the mountain most times that like, you know, it makes a difference. It really does. But you know, when you're just starting, I think everybody deserves to be miserable for a little bit until they figure it out. I think that's how you have to do it. You know, rip your pants and have to deal with it for the next 5 or 6 days.
Well, you know, I feel like it's one of those things is you're going to have to sacrifice one way or the other. And if you don't have the money to sacrifice, you know, you're either going to sacrifice time or comfort. You know, it's one of those things. You have to sacrifice somewhere. And you've just got to make the choice of what you are able to do. What you value the most, whether that is comfort or having that extra money to go on another hunt later, or whatever it may be. You have to make that choice, and I don't think we all realize that. You know, I think we just want a little bit of everything, and tend to set the bar too high, and then let that. As a new hunter, I know it's easy to find myself letting that discourage me for what I'm about to do. Yeah. Albeit at this point, I think I could probably have both of my legs chopped off and I would still find a way to get out at this point. I would actually, Sydney, if you're listening to this, we'll have a conversation about that later. Sid was one of my prior guests. He is a badass. He's a triathlete, a hunter, and a double amputee.
I badass, I think, is kind of an understatement for him. That's really cool.
So you were talking a little bit about, you grew up around hunting. Now, do you think it wasn't, you weren't quite as involved? Do you kind of feel like that was at all because you were the girl in the family, or?
Oh, definitely because I was the girl in the family. Like my dad legitimately said to me one time is girls don't do this. And so I was just like, all right, girls don't do it. That's cool. And I mean, I rode around in the truck with him, when he was gonna go like jump shoot pheasant or something. But I mean, besides that, that wasn't something I did. I didn't get to shoot the guns. I plinked around with like, a pellet gun or something. But my grandpa was a big hunter too, and he actually hunted off mules and had pack mules and stuff. And so, I mean, that I love that. And I grew up around them and riding mules and everything. And I mean, it was my dream to go to elk camp with grandpa and pack in on the mules. And he, um, sad story, but he got cancer and passed away when I was
Huh.
15. So, yeah, I never got that opportunity, but we had talked about it, because I was becoming a little bit older, probably was able to like take care of myself, carry myself a little bit better out there, so he wouldn't have to worry as much. And I was able to ride and pack the mules, and so yeah, we were getting to that point, but he unfortunately got sick. So then, that was always there. Like everybody always tells me, like, you're definitely his granddaughter. Like you are the epitome of him. So I'm stubborn like him too. So it helps.
But that's gotta be awesome anytime somebody tells you that, because
Oh yeah.
I know when I hear stuff like that about my granddad and seeing bits of that, or my dad even in me, I get know that gets me really excited.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I love that because, and everybody's always like, you know what? You're the only one that he liked. I swear, he didn't like anybody else in the family. He just liked you because you would go and hang out with him and play with the stupid mules. So it was pretty awesome. But yeah, so my affinity and love for mules and hunting, I think, came from him.
There you go.
Yeah,
And so then you had a few of the various boyfriends that would take you out
yeah.
occasionally.
I think
So
that happens with a lot of the girls that hunt now.
I was gonna say, I feel like it starts out as one of those things like, oh, I'm gonna take her out, I'm gonna show off a little bit,
Yeah,
and be the
yeah,
big man. And is
right.
that kind of how it
I,
happened a lot?
I kind of, I don't really know. I mean, I don't really remember much of it. Like, I had one boyfriend who went all the time, and I never went with him. I just thought it was really cool. I'm like, that's really neat. Like, and that's kind of how the conversation started, and like how I like started becoming more interested in it, and like seeing like waterfowl and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, that would be a freaking blast. And so, like, I went out and went on dove hunts or whatever else, and um went on some like other hunts here and there, and rode around in trucks or whatever with people looking for animals. And I was like, this is kind of cool. It'd be neat to do this one day. And then I had another boyfriend who like finally was like, yeah, let's go, I'll take you out. And I think my first couple trips out, I just went with. And then from there on out, and then I had my own bow, and I was like, yeah, I think I want to hunt with this thing and try my hand at it. And so then I went through the whole hunter's ed process and all that kind of stuff, and then ended up going out. And um, I I can't remember if it was my first year or second year archery hunting. I killed a cow, and then from there on out, I was like, yep, done. I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, I haven't even been out yet, and I already know that I've completely changed the course of my life by picking up a bow and
Oh yeah,
buying an over the counter Idaho tag.
that's
So
exciting.
I'm
Have you
coming
been
out.
to Idaho before?
I've been for a wedding, and I think I've been through Idaho.
Okay.
But you know, only as far as an adult, only recently for a wedding.
Yeah.
Um, but I will be getting quite the glimpse of it in about a week.
Oh, for sure. That's awesome. I'm excited for you. I think you're gonna be here at the perfect time too. So,
But of course, as we know, there's no good hunting in Idaho.
nope, Idaho sucks. There's no good hunting. I mean, you'll be lucky if you even see any critters running around. It's just all bare hillsides.
Yeah, I mean it's not beautiful at all,
No,
and
not even a little bit.
there's no animals. I actually spoke to a game warden the other day, and he said all the animals, squirrels included, have left,
Yep, yep. They said,
except
screw this place.
except for the very angry grizzly bears that want to attack humans.
Yeah,
That's all that's left in all of Idaho.
and the badgers. I actually have a fun badger story for you, by the way.
Okay. Well, now I have to hear the
But
badger story.
it goes along with the antelope hunts that's been happening,
Okay.
so it kind
Okay.
of feeds into that a little bit.
Well, so speaking of that,
Yeah, segue.
my season, supernatural segue. My Oh, that's why I like having other fun people on with me. My season's just about to start. But you guys, you and your boyfriend have been out on chasing some speed goats, right?
Oh yeah, yep, those dang goats, the desert dragsters, speed goats, pronghorn, antelope, whatever anybody wants to call them.
I have to say, one of my favorite things about getting into this culture of hunting is learning all the weird crap we call things. Like every day there's I swear there's something new, like ribeye in the sky, or somebody I can't remember what the animal was, but somebody was talking about mountain carp the other day,
Carp,
or
okay, just
um
a bird of some sort.
no, it was an animal. It was a ground animal.
Oh really?
But just I don't know, but they called it mountain carp and speed goats and thunder
Yeah,
chickens, and
thunder chickens, I know those ones.
I swear I sit and I like I just sit and I'll laugh, and somebody on my office will be like, "What are you laughing at?" I'm like, "Yeah, you won't think this is funny in the slightest, but I think it's hilarious."
Just animal names, yeah. There's so many, and like you'll hear them all the time. And everybody, I swear, it depends on where you go, what state, what part of the region, where you're at in the United States. Like whether you're like down south or over east or over west, like you'll hear all sorts of different names for animals, and you're just like, all right, that one's new. I like that one. But yeah, antelope or like pronghorn because they're technically pronghorn, but everybody I know calls them antelope. I think it's just because it's nicer to say. But
Well,
yeah,
it's
so
part of our where the antelope roam.
yeah.
It's America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Nobody, there's no pronghorn in any America song, I don't think.
But yeah, so you guys have been out recently, uh, having some speed goat shenanigans, if you
Yeah.
will.
So, I mean, I think you might have followed my stories a little bit, my Instagram stories. I know some people have, and I was telling Jason, my boyfriend, that's the other day. I was like, it's insane how many like how much positive feedback I got from people. Like, it's super appreciated because part of that story, like, I just some people make antelope hunting look so easy, and it's not. Like, it's really hard, and it kind of depends on like how they're hunting it. Like me, I spot and stalk them every year. Yeah, I've been hunting them for 3 years now, and I've had a ton of close calls. I've let a couple arrows fly, and it's just just the name of the game, and I know that. But this year was super frustrating. I was just like, this is the year. It's gonna happen this year. Like I wasn't trying to be too proud, and I wasn't trying to be like, I'm a bad. It's gonna work. I was just like trying to like talk myself into it. I'm like, I figure if I can like talk myself into it, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. And I swear, doing that just made it worse. But on my stories, I kind of like took this path of just like keeping people updated on what I'm doing in the stories. And I was surprised to see how many people like would message me based off that. Were like, keep at it, good luck, you're gonna get it done. Keep your head up, keep your chin up. And like some close friends that I know were like, you sound really like just distraught. You're hunting one of the hardest animals there is. Just keep after it. Don't let it get you down. So it was kind of cool to see that. But yeah, so yeah, antelope shenanigans are frustrating. Like anybody talks about them now, and I'm like, you know what? Just throw that thing in the trash. If you have any kind of mount, just set it on fire. I don't want to ever see one of these things again. Like so frustrated with them.
Be like, guys, Sadie's coming over. We got to take down all the antelope.
She's gonna trash them.
You
Yeah.
walk in, you just see like the bare like dark spot on the wall where the antelope head was hanging, and
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I'm looking at one right now that's hung in here that Jason shot a few years ago with his rifle tag, and now he has a beauty of one that he shot with his bow. So
does he
I'm
have it
just like,
mounted with the tongue sticking out at you right now, or?
yeah, I know he should, because that's basically what it feels like. Is they're just like, haha, you suck. But that's what it is. I mean, it doesn't really. It's frustrating, and I'm not mad, and I'm not like upset about it or anything. It's just how hunting goes.
So one thing I've heard about antelope, I've had a few people tell me, is it's it's a very fun animal to hunt in that you typically get a lot of action involved. They're hard to get up to, but they're not always hard to find. But it seemed like from what I've seen in your stories is you were also having some difficulty throughout the trip just even locating them.
Yeah, so this last weekend, for some reason, they were gone. They disappeared. I don't know. They weren't in their normal areas. I mean, most of the herds that, we ended up learning the behaviors of, if they were in one spot, you can find them in like two or three other spots, and they weren't anywhere. Like I found a group of 5 bucks, and I stalked on them and got 89 yards to one. And this is the funniest part of the story because this is just crap that happens to me, and I don't know if it's because I'm like just being lazy and dumb, or if it's just because I'm just have bad luck. But I was belly crawling and I'm getting really close, and I'm ranging this big old sagebrush in front of me, and it has a little bit of like, not rolling terrain, but there's like enough like just humps and stuff here and there that I can get behind them. And the 5 bucks are behind this big sagebrush. I'm like, perfect. And so I range it 19 more yards. I'm like, sweet, I can belly crawl 19 more yards, draw my bow back, sit up, and just have a perfect like 70-yard shot. And I mean, because most of the time, I mean, you're lucky if you get under 60, let alone like some guys are shooting them at 30 yards spawn stock. I don't even know how the hell they do it, but um,
Witchcraft.
so
Absolute
yeah,
witchcraft.
exactly. I think it's magic. It's just witchcraft. Like I have no idea how they have like a shaman like blessing them before their hunt. I don't know what they're doing, but something happens. But yeah, so I'm out there, and so I have this decoy, and it's one of those decoys where you can like fold it up, kind of like those like window visors. So it's folded up,
Yeah.
and usually we have like a band around it. So I took that off just in case I needed like a quick deploy. Well, I put it in the back of my pants, and I'm like, okay, it's good right there because I can belly crawl with it. I'm good to go. You can probably guess where this is going. So I'm belly
Yep.
crawling and I get close, and the freaking decoy pops out, and it comes open. And yeah, and so then all of a sudden this big noise happens, something flashes, and the bucks just blow up and they run 100 yards from me, and I'm just like, oh my God. I didn't put
Wah,
that in my
wah.
story because I was so just like amateur hour. This is something that I would do, of course. Like I've been humbled so many times this year already that it's just like I'm still an amateur. I know I'm an amateur. I don't deserve any of this. I need to work my ass off for it. And I was just like, after that, I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. And I couldn't find any antelope after that. Like that was it for the day. And I was
Ah,
like, that was my one shot. That was my one opportunity. And it was like one of the biggest bucks I've ever seen. It sucked. So it was funny though.
that's a
Only
bummer.
to me. Yeah.
So, so what would you say looking back at, you did kind of two hunts. You did the one with your boyfriend and then the one this last weekend, Labor Day weekend, you went out just you and the pup.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
what would you say looking at this last hunt, what would you say that you did right, and what would you say that you would look back, other than putting pop-up decoys in your back pocket, what would you say that you really feel like you needed to improve on, and kind of in that range? Like, what would you think would have improved your hunt
Mhm.
if you had worked on it, and what do you feel like you really did well?
It's hard to say because like so Jason and I did two, and then I did one by myself. I mean, there's so many variables. After every stalk, after every time, I'm like, I could have done this different. I could have done that different. And it all just like with antelope hunting, it's like you're either lucky or you're not. And I've gotten so much advice from so many people around me that just like that have killed them. But applying that advice is like, you kind of have to apply it to the same situation they were in, or else it doesn't seem like it'll work. Because I've tried it. I'm like, all right, somebody gave me this advice, I'm going to try it. And it doesn't quite work. And I think it's because I'm in like a different terrain situation. The wind's different, the sun's different. I mean, because it's just blaring sun the entire time and it's hot. And most of the time, I swear it was always windy. And where these antelope like to hang out was always downwind. And like you couldn't, and it was either swirling wind or downwind or big wind gusts or something. And then if they would spook, and they weren't downwind of me, they would run downwind of me. So it was like I felt like no matter what I did, and there was some times where I was like, gosh, there was like if I would have just like crawled behind this bush instead of that bush, or like taken like 2 extra minutes of time and like waited just a little bit longer to move, or something else. And I tried something new this year using a decoy. I've never used a decoy before because where I'm at, they always spook to decoys. It doesn't matter. Like you pull a decoy out, they're gone. They're miles away at that point.
Hmm.
And so, um, but they're kind of starting to show a little bit of early rutting activity, which they never start to show this time of year. It's usually like end of September during our rifle hunts, and those are draw tags. So, you have to put in for those. The archery hunt is actually an unlimited draw tag, so you have to put in for it to get it, but you can still get it. Um, so it was just kind of odd. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try this decoy thing. Well, I figured out that the decoy kind of works with lone bucks. So either a group of bucks or just a buck by himself. It tends to work, or it did work for me at least a little bit better than it would have worked with a herd. With the herds, there's just like millions of eyes, and they have like, I think somebody told me it's like 270 degrees of like peripheral vision or something like that, like an insane amount of peripheral vision. Like they can see anything. It doesn't matter, head down, head up, facing away from you. I swear they can see you. So it was just a lot of different variables. Like it didn't seem like there was anything I could do right or fix on the stock. Like it was just guessing. Like maybe if I would have waited a little bit longer here, maybe if I would have came up this other side, maybe if I would have, you know, went the harder route and belly crawled an extra 150 yards up the other way, maybe I could have gotten it then. Maybe if I would have like set up the decoy and belly crawled away from it and snuck around them, like it just all seemed so uh, like guess and check, guess and check, guess and check. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I think for the people that it works for, they try something and it works. And I mean, there was plenty of times where I was like this last weekend by myself, I had 4 encounters at 80 to 90 yards. And I'm not going to shoot that far. I mean, some people, I know a lot of guys who are like, yeah, I'll shoot 90 yards on an antelope, whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not willing to do that. So I'm not going to. And some guys, like, we have this buddy that was hunting up there, and he was just like, like we called him bebopping around out in the field with him. Like I called him, I told him, I'm like, you seriously look like Sasquatch out there, just squatching around in the field, just walking right up to him like all willy-nilly, and he just shoots him. And he shot one. I'm like, how does this even work for you? You're like, is this the squatch technique? I don't know how that happens.
He's just like, hey guys, what's up? I'm gonna come over there. Don't worry, nothing's wrong. I'm just gonna walk over to you and shoot you.
Yeah,
cool.
It's like,
We're cool.
He just goes in, just walks over, and just like gets the herd going crazy, and they're running around circles and just shoots them. I'm like, all right, well that's cool. I mean, I guess that works. So, and then I got some advice. So somebody's like, well, just like stalk an ambush or spot an ambush, and I'm like, spot? Okay, well, whatever. So I was like, this week, and I'm like, screw it, I'm just gonna spot them and ambush out of them. So. Okay. So, yeah, so just like so much crap. So this last weekend by myself, it was just like a lot of not caring. So the second day I finally found the antelope again. And it was after a lot of driving around, and I found him in a spot where we were hoping they would be for the last 3 weekends, and they haven't been. And finally they were there. And so I found one buck by himself. So I'm like, belly crawling under barbed wire fence, trying to get to him. And then I set up the decoy, and he just stops, and he's like staring at the decoy. And I try like the technique where you set it up and then like just stalk towards him, hoping that he'll just pay attention to that. And of course, like I'm parked close, so he's looking at the rig and then looking at the decoy. And I'm like, okay, maybe that'll distract him enough that he's not even going to see me. And I have the dog with me, so my car is running, and the dog's in the car sitting in the AC just watching me like belly crawling through the sagebrush. He's probably like, what are you doing?
He's like, that looks like fun. I want to join.
I think he did. I think he was getting pissed. Like when every time I go back to the car after a stalk, he just look at me like, seriously, again. And so so I'm stalking after this buck, and that buck I got 98 yards from. And then he blew up and he was gone, and my wind was bad, but I didn't have any other option. Like where the best way to get to him and belly crawl to him, it was either play my wind and hopefully like I'll get it right, or the wind's gonna swirl and I'm gonna be screwed. So he didn't end up liking something, and he was gone. And I'm like, all right, well, there's more down here. There's another herd down here. Let me go try them. And they were actually in some big terrain. I'm like, awesome. And they were getting down to the flats into some willows. I'm like, okay, so I can follow this down If they work towards the willows, I can just get into the willows. And it was kind of cool because I was like, sweet, this might work out perfectly. And last year, actually, in that same spot, I was actually drawing back 50 yards on a buck. And I mean, took forever to belly crawl through these willows and like get down there. It was like 2 hours, I think. Finally got down there, starting to draw back on this buck. And nobody had been down this dirt road that kind of skirts this all day. Nobody, not a single soul. Forest Service truck comes flying down the road, blows up the
Oh,
herd. Yeah. And so this year they're down in that same area. And I'm like, sweet, I might get my opportunity. This is it. And I got so excited. And so I'm down in there and I'm getting close. And I'm like 90 yards. I'm like, this is freaking sweet. And a freaking helicopter comes flying up the bottom and like flies right over the herd. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I am cursed. I swear I have zero luck. Like, the worst luck of anybody I know. Like, a freaking helicopter, not a rig driving down the road, a helicopter. And no helicopters fly in this area, but they happen to be flying. And so they flew right over the herd. Herd blows up. And I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? I was done at that point. I was like,
considering
no,
doing a spot and stock on that helicopter at that point.
seriously. I was like, what? How much trouble would I get in if I shot that helicopter right now? Like, that was all I could think. Like, just not hurt the helicopter. Just send one through this guy's leg because they were like hanging out the side of it. No idea what they were doing. But I was like, if just poke one in his leg real quick, just to teach him a little bit of a lesson. Like, I know they saw me. I know they saw the herd and they just flew right over him. So I actually ended up trying to stalk that herd again. I found them again, and they were kind of unstockable. But some of them, I was driving down this little road, and some of them were actually crossing the road and crossing the fence to go back towards the trees. And I was like, sweet, this is awesome. And they were literally standing in the road. And I'm like, I wonder how close they'd let me like drive this road because they're used to cars, whatever. And so I was like, all right. So I get to like, I think I was like 100 yards, and I'm like, they're not moving. So I was like, screw it, I'm ambushing. So I just grab my bow, get out of the car, and start just like going as fast as I can. They stand there and let me get 80 yards. I'm like, please stay there. Let me get 10 more yards. And so like I slow down a little bit and I get my arrow knocked. I'm walking, I range them. I'm like, all right, 10 more yards. And so I'm like count my steps. I'm like, this is it. This is it. And I start to draw back and they take off. I'm like, dang it.
So close.
And then I think that was the last stalk for the day. And then it got to be like 90 something degrees again. And that herd was blown up and I couldn't find any more. So then I took the dog to the river and fished a little bit. But yeah, it's antelope hunting apparently.
There you go. So now the badger story.
Yeah. Okay. So the badger story. I'm glad you reminded me of that. Um, so last weekend Jason shot his. The weekend before that, I found this lone buck, or we found this lone buck. It was the eclipse weekend. Which was really cool because the eclipse was happening as we were stalking this buck. And so we're stalking through and there's a bunch of terrain and stuff. And it was in the same actual like area field where those 5 were that I was stalking this last weekend. So that's kind of neat. So I'm like stalking through and I'm like watching him and I'm like crouched down really low, kind of under this hump, and I'm like moving as fast as I can. And I see something move out of the corner of my eye and I look and all of a sudden this badger starts hissing at me.
Oh,
And at that point I'm just
jeez.
like, crap. And because he lunged at me and started like hissing at me and growling, and I'm like, oh my God. So like I just ran like as fast as I could the other way. And I didn't even care at that point. I was like, screw this antelope. I don't want to go toe to toe with a badger. And so I'm like running away from the badger. And I stop and I'm like, whew, and I look back at Jason and he was like, seriously? I'm like, I don't want to get in a fight with a badger right now. No, it's not something I want to do. What'd you do this weekend? Got attacked by a badger? Like, nobody wants to say that. But then after that, I was like, why didn't I just turn around and shoot the thing? Because a badger pelt would be really cool to have.
Yeah,
So
there you go.
after that, but I was like, I'm more worried about getting attacked by the thing, not shooting it.
Yeah, are badger considered like vermin or whatever out there, or
So yeah. I don't think there's not a season on them or anything. A lot of people shoot them. I think some people try to trap them and stuff. They're angry creatures.
so they're out there with like coyotes and
Yeah,
all that good
basically.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure honestly if I've ever actually seen a live badger anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like down in southern Idaho, there's a million of them, I swear, and they're gonna be like out in like, you know, coyote territory and where the jackrabbits live and stuff. But for the most part, they just hang out in their holes all day. I've only seen a few. I see most of them at night, but not much during the day. But that was the only one I've seen during the day. It was really odd. And it was the biggest badger I've ever seen. So after that, I was like, dang it, I could have shot him. Could have had a sweet pelt. But
Oh,
they're actually really soft.
how big do they get?
Oh, I don't know. Like the one, I mean, he was like the size of my dog, I swear. No, he was, I mean, like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like,
I mean, are we talking like 5 foot long here, or?
no, probably not that. Like, maybe like, I don't know. I'm not good with like actually judging feet. So like,
So I'm
like
I'm gonna guess
feet, maybe.
because people can't actually see how you're holding your hands
No,
out
they
right
can't.
here.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I do that all the time here too, and then realize I'm gesturing. So I mean, you're looking what, probably about 3 feet, something
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
something like that. And
Yeah, the bigger ones. Yeah, maybe a little bit smaller than that. But I mean, they get really wide though. Like it's just super like wide and fat looking. Like I every time I see, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but some people might be, but there's the Fox and the Hound, like the Disney with the
yeah,
kids.
yeah.
And there's like the mean old badger in that. Every time I see a badger, I think of that like mean old badger coming out of his hole. Like yeah, every time. So I saw that badger and that was the first thing I thought of.
Oh, funny.
He was coming out of his hole to yell at me and tell me to get out of there. You're welcome for that.
So are you the fox or the hound though? That's the question.
Oh man, that's a good question.
It's deep. This is the reason why people listen to this podcast is these deep philosophical questions, and it really causes everyone to examine. It'll take a good close look and examine themselves.
Sure.
You know,
I've considered that, but I mean, I should look and see if I'm the fox or the hound. That's a great question.
There you go. Or are we truly one thing, or can we be both?
Oh,
Or
wow.
are you
This
are you the badger?
You know, usually I'm the badger. I'm yelling at people, telling them to get out of here.
Oh my gosh. I don't do drugs, but I feel like I'd need to smoke weed to get any further into this conversation.
Oh, that would be fascinating. Yeah, it would be like a hole or foxhole right there, badger hole, whatever.
Oh. So, anyway, moving beyond the deep philosophical discussion, were we ever on track? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think so.
So tell me a little bit. You are the Idaho regional rep for BHA. I actually, it was a lot of fun. We just had Ty and Grant from BHA. They came in and did a little bit of a California tour, and we did some fun stuff with Hike to Hunt, and we did couple of local pint nights, and just had a good time. And it's definitely a little different. You know, I don't know how it was in some of the other locations as they were going up and down California, but it's definitely, we had a good crew out for Los Angeles, because it is tough. If anybody from Los Angeles will understand what I mean when I say, like, it's tough to get people from Los Angeles to commit to anything. And it's also very tough to get them to go anywhere, like before or immediately after work, unless it's within like a mile of their house. Because just the further out you get from your house, it's like exponentially longer during traffic. And it's not like, 20 miles, that's going to take me 25 minutes to get there. No, 20 miles could take you anywhere from 45 minutes to like 3 hours, depending on the time of day. And
no, thank you.
And so we had a good group come out for the pint nights, and it was fun connecting with other hunters in LA, because we can get very isolated in this area. You know, it's just not a super conducive place to archers and hunters.
Honestly, I don't, when I think of LA, I don't think of hunters. I don't think of hunting. And like, I didn't know that they actually existed in LA. Like, you would think that most of them would move away from there.
We try. We definitely try.
There's a very small community of LA hunters.
You know, it's funny. I talk with a lot of people, and we're out here. You know, some people are like me, just born and raised here, and this is home, and we've gotten into hunting one way or the other. And there is a good community of hunters. We have a lot of public land out here, like a huge amount of public land. And It's just, I think because it's such an unfriendly environment, we tend to isolate ourselves a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and there's also a little bit of pride, I think, in that, and like kind of wanting to feel like, I've said it before, like I'm the sole hunter that lives in Los Angeles. There's no one else but me, kind of a
Well, I mean, that's
kind of a thing.
a big title, a big task to take on living in LA and calling yourself a hunter. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of backlash when you talk to people, like you're saying at work or whatever. Nobody around you is probably interested in what you have to say or show them because it's probably hunting related, and they're probably like throwing their nose up at you, like, "Oh no, I don't want to hear that."
Well, I'm pretty lucky at work. Like, everyone there may not understand it, but it's not too like there's a few people that are very anti, but even a lot of the people that are anti-hunting they more just don't want to hear about it. They're not like super aggressively against it, and a lot of that comes from our head of security. He was actually my mentor when it comes to getting into backcountry hunting.
Oh, cool.
He's just one of the more influential guys at our office, and he has been hunting since he was a kid.
That's awesome.
And so everyone knows it. Like, and he rolls in a big puffy Sitka vest, or he'll
Yeah.
he'll roll in, and we actually started talking because I came in one day and I'd slapped a new like Realtree skin on the back of my laptop. And he looked at that. He's like, "Hey, wait a second. we need to have a discussion here." And so, I found out he was into that, and some people were like, "Hey, you got to go talk to Samson. He's into that, all that hunting stuff too."
Yeah.
And so we've talked a lot. It actually gets to the point where I have to be careful on which days if I'm heading out of the office, I have to be careful on which days I stop by his office. Because there have been times we both sat down and we'll pull up Google Maps and we'll start looking at spots, and then he'll be like, "Oh, have you seen this resource?" I'm like, "Oh no." I'm like, "Oh, have you tried out this whatever? I found this cool supplement or something." And all of a sudden it's 9:00 at night
And you're still
it's all dark.
Oh,
Everyone's
awesome.
left, but yeah.
That's really cool.
But yeah, so you're the Idaho regional rep. Tell me a little bit about what you do for BHA in Idaho.
So, the regional rep thing is kind of new for Idaho, but it's a pretty cool thing that they've done. Like, it's just another way of reaching out and a little bit of a different way to, get out there and talk to people and be a resource for people other than our chairmans and that kind of thing. So there's all the hunting regions in Idaho where I'm at happens to be Region 3, so that covers a huge chunk of area from McCall down to southern Idaho. So Region 3, there's actually 2 or 3 of us as regional reps. I know me and one other guy for sure are pretty involved, and so we kind of try to push Tyler, the other regional rep. He's done a lot of the hunt to hike stuff. He's pretty available for that, and he's done a lot of that. I've been traveling a lot, so I've been around too much, and I did a couple of them. But we kind of just try to help out at events or get the word out. We had a backcountry in the backyard, and Tyler and I went to that and worked the booth and helped out with that. We try to help plan events. If anybody wants to do backcountry in the backyard or pint nights or whatever else, we try to just plan and coordinate and get people on top of stuff. We try to be a resource for most people to come to. So there's just more information available to people, more people to be able to ask questions to, because our chairmans and everything are just so they have so much going on most of the time that it's just another resource, and it's kind of an easier resource to reach, and it's people that they're generally known within the community or who have a pretty good presence in the community, who can be that resource for people who might know other people and know how to reach out. So last week I actually went to a pint night up in McCall at one of the breweries up there. It's this little town in Idaho, so if people are familiar with Idaho, they know McCall, but it's north of me, a couple hours north of Boise here. And yeah, that was a pretty fun one. I mean, there's not a BHA presence in the McCall area. And so it was really cool to see as many people come out to the Pike Night as they did, I mean, we had all walks of life. Like it's right next to where the smoke jumpers are at, based out of McCall. So we had some smoke jumpers
Okay.
coming over and chatting, and then we had, hunters, we had non-hunters, we had just, public land lovers, and it's a lot. It's a huge outdoor town, so there's a lot of people, a lot of walks of life around there. And there's one lady who actually came who, I mean, she kind of started a really harsh conversation of just like kind of taking us on off track and like getting very political, and it was just, it started a really heavy conversation, and we're like, well, yeah, we can talk about that, but that's not something we want to share like with the entire crowd here. And and so we ended up having a really long conversation with her, and it was over an hour of just like chatting with her and everything. So it was kind of cool to see all the different people there. So that's kind of what we do. We'll be really involved with the Rendezvous, because the Rendezvous is going to be in Boise this year, or in 2018. So that'll be awesome. It's going to be really sweet.
So what's the Rendezvous?
So BHA Rendezvous is kind of just a gathering of everybody, all areas, all walks. So usually it's in Missoula. It's been held there for, oh my gosh, I don't even know how many years now, a lot of years. And so they do like a million things during, I swear, there's seminars, and there's storytelling nights, and they did a film night, and raffles and silent auctions and vendors. And so in Missoula this last spring, it was really cool to see some of the vendors that came out. So like Ryan Callahan and his buddy, I can't think of his name right now. They came and did a seminar on like basically using every part of the animal and cooking it and eating it. And that one was really cool. It took a lot away from that. And then
Are you talking Steve Ranella or
no, it
Giannis?
was, I can't think of his name. It wasn't somebody that's on the podcast with him, or that's done the podcast kind of thing when he's been on there with Steve. It's one of his other buddies. I cannot think of his name to save my life. I think it might have been Randy, maybe. I don't know. I can't quote me on it. I can't think of it right now. But yeah, so he did that one. Then Randy Newberg came and did one, and we just had all sorts of different people that came in. Um, I want to say Greg from Keep It Public. Yeah, Dr. Greg from Keep It Public was there, and he did a seminar. And I mean, a lot of these just like great people giving seminars, talking to people, getting the conversation going. And then we had a ton of vendors there. And I mean, it's such a cool environment. And then, there's the beer fest, and the beer fest is a fun one. I mean, drinking or not, whatever your take is, that's a blast. It's just to see like all these like local breweries come out, everybody getting together, all the funds raised go to BHA, and there's music and food vendors, and just a fun night filled with a ton of people. And then there's like the storytelling night. The storytelling night was really cool to hear some of these people get up and tell stories, and um, yeah, it's just a lot of stuff. And so the rendezvous is actually going to be in Boise this year, and it's going to be pretty sweet. Like, I think we're hoping it's going to be bigger than it's ever been, because Boise's a little bit easier to get to than Missoula is, a little more central to fly into. A lot of people are really stoked and like, yeah, I'm here next year. I'm going to bring a bunch of people with me. So it's going to be awesome. I think rendezvous is going to be huge, and they have so many cool things planned already. So it's going to be just epic. I'm really excited for it. So that's what a lot of the Idaho chapter is focused on, is making Rendezvous epic.
That's super exciting. So when's it taking place again?
I want to say April. Don't quote me. Sorry. I don't have specific dates yet, but 2018. It's spring.
Okay.
We'll say spring 2018.
Well, gosh, I hope if it's in April, I might be out of luck. We'll have to see.
Yeah, you should try to go to at least. It's totally worth it if you can make it work.
Yeah, the month of April, depending on when it is difficult for me because my company, we put on music festivals.
Okay.
And our two biggest music festivals are right at the middle and end of April. It's like basically those last 3 weekends of April. And then we kind of move out there a week or two beforehand, and we like live out in the desert for a month.
Yeah.
Throwing these festivals. So
okay.
I'll have to I'll keep an eye out, and I'll have to try and plan accordingly, see how everything's going, and see how that lies with the festival
Yeah,
the
definitely.
festival schedule.
Yeah, there's not quite a date. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's in April. I just don't have dates. So, I yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got a little bit of time before it happens to keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. But planning helps. But yeah, so um April 2018, it's gonna be a freaking blast. I'm so excited that it's here in Boise because Boise's so much fun. I mean, Missoula's awesome, but it'll be cool to see a change of pace for Rendezvous. So
That's super exciting. So you also are with Sitka, right? What are you doing for? Tell me a little about a little bit about what you're doing for Sitka.
so with Sitka, I mean, they're a blast to be with and work with. And I'm just one of their, I guess, technical brand ambassadors, a women's brand ambassador. So, um, I go to shows and get to talk to people about camo and, be just an ambassador for the brand, for the women's brand. And it was kind of fun, like being able to like help out with getting the women's line going and getting the gear, finalized and stuff before it went out to production and being a part of that was pretty awesome. I mean, I've worn Sitka since basically I started hunting. Like my first couple trips I went out and tore my pants and I was miserable and wore camo and stuff and everybody's like, this stuff is awesome. It feels great and everybody knew I was wearing it. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a try. And of course was hooked and never stopped wearing it. I was like, I can't wear anything else. It's just not gonna happen. And so like I was religious to it. Like I just loved it and would never wear anything else. Could never even think about wearing anything else. And I never even questioned it. I was like, I had the same pair of pants from them forever. And then, so it was like 6 years. I wore like the one same pair of pants on all my hunts. It like never changed. And it's just how it was. So I was like, I'm keeping it. Like I will never change. I will never go anywhere else. And so, yeah, I stayed with him forever. And then, I got to know some people and started the conversation and yeah, it was pretty cool. So I go travel around to some shows here and there and, just chat with people at the booth and talk about gear and talk about hunting and um yeah, it's just a blast. So I mean that's my favorite part. Like we were talking about earlier, you have to have the best of the best and I mean yeah, you don't have to have it, but the difference it makes in your overall morale on your hunt if you can be comfortable and you can have technical gear that's going to work for you, it completely changes it. Like it changed it for me. Like I actually enjoyed being out there after that because I wasn't freezing or I wasn't wet or I wasn't like sweaty or whatever else. I was like actually comfortable and I'm like, I can stay out here for a few more days. Like this is awesome. I'm good to go here. So I think just the overall change, and like because it's gear. And I think somebody at one of the shows was like, this is basically just like technical gear. This isn't clothes. I'm like, it's exactly what it is. It's gear. Like your clothing is your gear. I mean, you're spot on. And so it was just kind of like funny to hear him say that and me go, yeah, totally. I mean, you're exactly right. That's exactly what it is. I mean, if you use it, you'll understand. So yeah, it's a blast.
On that note, let's take a moment to hear a quick word from one of my partners.
All right, y'all, we all know that it's possible to get into the backcountry and take that big buck or bull with a set of surplus store camo and a Walmart tent. But let's face it, quality gear can often make the difference between checking out early due to sheer misery and pushing through just a little bit further to find success. But all this gear can start to add up, and that's why I'd recommend shopping at Black Ovis. They carry high-performance hunting gear from all the top brands like Vortex, Crispy, Sitka, First Light, Mountain Ops, and Stone Glacier, often at a nicely discounted rate. I've yet to find anywhere that offers a more reasonable price, plus their shipping is free and their customer service is unmatched. Additionally, by making the choice to shop at Black Ovis, you're supporting a company that's involved in and gives back to the hunting community. It's where I do all my gear shopping, and whether you're just looking to replace a few items or build out a brand new kit, Black Ovis is the one-stop shop for super solid hunting gear. Additionally, you can help support Living Country in the City by doing all your gear shopping at Black Ovis. Visit livingcountryinthecity.com/Black Ovis, bookmark the link, and use it whenever you do your shopping.
Well, so I'm going to be a little bit selfish here.
Oh, go for it.
And I'm going to ask a question for myself.
Uh-huh.
Since you are a resident Idaho expert here, what I'm coming out for my trip in a week. What let's do it this way. What's one thing I should really be looking forward to coming out to Idaho? And what's one thing, not necessarily that I should be concerned about, but what's one thing that I should maybe expect or be prepared for?
So let's start with the last one first. So the thing you can expect that you should be prepared for or concerned about is how much money you're going to spend moving here after you come here. Because everybody, I swear, like this is the theme in Idaho, and it's so funny that I'm talking to you, but I'm gonna tell you this anyways. Most people in Boise hate people from California. So if you're gonna have California plates on your rig and you're gonna be up here driving around, like just be aware that most people around this area hate anybody from California just because like we have everybody from California moves to Boise. Everybody does. And so like we're overtaken by these Californians. Everybody's like, "Yeah, where are you from?" I'm like, "Born and raised here." Like, "Are you serious? I hardly meet anybody any that's born and raised here. Everybody's from California." Like five of my neighbors right now that surround me are from California. And like one of the guys was like, he came over and introduced himself. He was like, we're like, "Yeah, where are you from?" And he was like, "I don't know if I want to say." And we're like, "Oh, no worries." And he's like, "From California." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he was like, "The first thing I did when I moved here, the very first day I lived here, was went to DMV and changed my license plates." I was like, all right. So yeah, anyways, but that's sidetrack, side note there. But yeah, it's just I mean, so obviously that tells you right there, people from California love it here. I mean, it's a beautiful place. I mean, non-hunting wise, I mean, it's a beautiful place. You can't deny that at all. I mean, anybody that comes here that's never been exposed to like mountains like this or terrain like this is just like it's awesome. And I agree. Like I get a beat in it all the time, and sometimes like I find myself taking it for granted, and then the switch kind of flips. I'm like, not everybody gets to do this every day like I do. Not everybody gets to go on these beautiful scenic drives and see all this stuff, and drive through gorgeous mountains and see all these awesome sunsets over the mountains. And I'm like, this is pretty awesome. So that's definitely something you can look forward to. Hunting wise, I think you're gonna have a blast regardless of what happens. Like I think it's just gonna be just beyond fun for you, whether you see animals, whether you hear them. I mean, if you get into them, if you don't get into them, I think you're going to completely enjoy yourself 100%.
Well, I was just talking, I mean, I've said it a couple times. I was talking with Cody Rich last week, and he was asking me, like, what I'm most excited about. And I was telling him I've never heard an elk bugle in my life. Like, I mean, I've seen it on videos, and but it's like, I feel like a lot of people just kind of, like, do take that for granted. Some, like, not in the way of, like, they don't appreciate it, but more like they just don't realize that it's not like something everyone's used to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely like the first bugle you hear, you're just going to be like, not even going to know what to do. You're just going to be like, oh my gosh, it's going to make you excited and like nervous and like frantic and like anxious and like just all sorts of emotions.
All the feelings.
Yeah, all the feelings. Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna be like going nuts, and you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to find him. But what I do him, that was so freaking cool, and just like almost like shuts you down right there, just because it's like, because still, I mean, I don't think I ever take it for granted. Every time I hear an elk bugle, like an actual elk bugle, it's just like, holy crap, that's awesome. Like every single time, especially the closer you get to. I mean, I've really fun elk hunting story from like one of my first years hunting with a bow. My first year's elk hunting, it was my actually first close encounter with a bull, and I mean, I had a bull bugle like a foot away from me in my face.
Oh man.
Coolest freaking thing ever. I mean, and that was like one of my first experiences. I'll never forget that. And like that sound still like pierces my ears, but it's the most incredible thing, I mean, you will ever hear, honestly, and you'll never forget it either. I mean, it's going to be instilled in you.
Oh, I can imagine. And I'm already definitely been, Montana has always been first on my list, but Idaho has definitely always been very close on the list too.
Yeah.
Where I've been wanting to go, but I've always told myself, I'm like, okay, if I do move to Montana, it's gonna have to be really close to the Idaho border, so I can just hop over. And I've got some good, a good friend, actually another coworker who's a hunter. He lives in Boise.
Okay.
And then I've got some good friends who moved up to Coeur d'Alene.
Awesome.
One of my longest term closest friends. He moved his family up to Coeur d'Alene Fortunately for him, he got out of Houston before all this
Oh
happened. They
wow.
were in
Yeah.
Houston just a year ago or a year or two ago,
Holy
and
crap.
so he's very confident in the decision he made to get out of there at the time. But
Yeah, I bet. Well, now he lives somewhere that's, I mean, I was in Houston not long ago and now he's living in Coeur d'Alene. Holy crap. Like that's
yeah,
amazing.
no, and I was looking. I'm gonna be a bit far south. I was hoping uh I could find enough time to get up and visit him and
Yeah.
come into Boise and visit my other buddies and do a little bit of traveling too. But I've kind of decided to keep it as much time as I can focused on hunting elk.
Oh yeah.
If I suddenly get lucky, within the first few days, then I might go enjoy some barbecue with some barbecuing some elk steaks with some friends.
Awesome.
But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, well if you do end up doing that, let me know.
very definitely.
Yeah, we're around. You come over, we'll cook you up some antelope or something. Jason ended up shooting one. This is part two of that story.
There we go. Be like, so, there's not much antelope here. Why didn't you take any more this year?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you can leave my house now.
Yeah, and see you later. Thanks for coming over. Never talk to me again. I'm deleting you from my friends on Facebook.
And blocked.
Yeah.
Oh man. So as we're kind of winding down here, I always like to kind of finish up just with this podcast. Like I said before, it's really kind of aimed at folks who may feel intimidated by getting into the outdoors, whether they're new to it or there's someone like myself from a city that doesn't have a history with it. What would you say to someone like that? What encouragement would you give them? What advice might you have for that person?
I mean, you're doing it right, honestly. I mean, you're learning as much as you can being a sponge and we kind of hit the nail on the head before is never be too proud, never everybody can always learn something. I mean, there's guys that I know that are like 60, 70 years old that are like, I don't know everything. And, I can learn more all the time. I think everybody needs to have that same kind of mentality, like always be accepting, like always learn more, always look to other people. Like even if, I mean, this is what Jason has taught me a ton of, is as I see him doing this all the time, like he's probably one of the most knowledgeable people I know when it comes to hunting. And I mean, he's pretty successful and he knows a ton. But when other people are like, because some people will offer up advice even if you ask them or not, like that's just kind of how the hunting world goes. Sometimes, get somebody excited, they'll just tell you what to do. But I kind of watch him and he just sits there and shakes his head and listens and kind of takes in what they're saying. And it's kind of like a sense of just you can always learn something from somebody. Even if you feel like you might be right about it, you can always learn from somebody else's experiences and you can always learn something from them. So whether you're brand new to it or not, like asking questions, even if they're the dumb questions, like you were saying, I mean, even if they're dumb, it doesn't matter. Like you have to learn somehow. So it's either going out there all willy-nilly with the bow and, figuring it out and wounding stuff or taking dumb shots and stuff that, somebody that's experienced might not do, or somebody that might, offer that information or, you know, listening to podcasts or reading. I mean, I know a lot of like you look at like Julie McQueen, like she's self-taught hunter. Like she'll tell anybody this. And I think it's really cool. I admire her for it. Like she went to Barnes and Noble and read magazines and books and figured it out. And, and she just kind of read up on it. And, I'm the type of person that like I can read, but I have to experience it. So I kind of just went with someone just to see what it was like. And I mean, I think it's never a bad idea just to experience. And that's how I learned how to do most things. Like fly fishing, I learned how to do it by watching. And I thought it was really cool. So then I started trying to do it on my own. And it's kind of that way with anything. So like hunting especially, like never be too proud. Never be too proud to learn. Never be too proud to try something. And it's intimidating. Like don't be afraid to be afraid. Like I feel like with anything, I mean, the second that you're not afraid is the second that something bad is going to happen, or something potentially bad could happen, or you're going to make a mistake. And especially since you're out there, gallivanting in the woods by yourself. I mean, I swear I should have broken my leg multiple times and I still haven't yet, or, stuck myself. I'm a klutz. So I've hurt myself
I
more than my fair share.
I am too. I think about it
Yeah.
whenever I really think about going out. I'm like, oh man,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna. That's the benefit of this being a solo hunt is it'll be a bummer if I injure myself, but there won't be anyone to see when I trip on that
Yeah.
branch and scrape the side of my face down a nice rough tree or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I think
Jason's seen all my bumps and bruises and falls and scrapes and twisted ankles and twisted knees and oh man, it happens all the time. Like it got to the point where like I would fall down and he wouldn't even look back anymore. He just knew that I fell down and he's just like, all right, just keep walking.
well, you even twisted your ankle during the
I
antelope
did.
hunt, didn't
Yeah,
you?
that was stupid. Yeah, I did.
During
I
the
actually,
first week.
it was a badger hole, believe it or not.
The badgers.
Badgers. I know I should have shot that one so they'd stop making badger holes everywhere. But yeah, I fell and twisted my ankle on one of those hunts. And yeah, then after that, Jason got a stock a nice buck and shot him. So it worked out. I fell down and he kept going.
Man.
It worked.
There you go.
Yeah, but for sure. I mean, and I think you're doing it right, definitely. And it is intimidating. It is a little bit scary, and that's something that I've struggled with for a long time. Is I'm really intimidated. I don't want to go hunting by myself. So the fact that you're willing to do that is really impressive to me. Like, that's awesome.
I don't know if it's just I'm dumb or if I'm just
No,
like
I
kind of have that courage, but I still haven't decided one way or the other if I'm just too dumb to be afraid.
well, I don't know if you're dumb. I mean, it might be being naive, but I don't think that's a bad way to be. Like sometimes I wish I was more naive. Sometimes I wish I didn't know as much as I know or see as much as I saw, or I feel like I would be a little more confident sometimes. But I like having the feeling of safety when I'm going with somebody else, and I'm getting to the point where I'm getting more comfortable by myself. And some people are fine with it. Some people are like, yeah, whatever, I'm good to go. But I'm a little I kind of play it on the safe side most of the time, so I'm a little more naive when it comes, or a little more, I guess, safe and not naive when it comes to that stuff. And I'm like, oh, everything's gonna happen. A bear's gonna get me, which probably isn't even the case. Would never happen in a million years. But me being me, and mostly it's me. I'm like, I'm gonna fall down and I'm gonna hurt myself, and I'm not gonna be able to get out of here. Is usually where my thoughts go. But I think for a lot of people, it's just not knowing where to start too. It's not knowing who to turn to or where to start or where to go, and it's being too proud or whatever else. And I mean, don't be afraid to ask questions. Pick what you want to do, decide what you want to hunt, and then start asking questions from there. And then the biggest thing I see is the lack of preparation. So like you've done it right. Like you've prepared yourself for a long time, it seems like. I'm not sure how long you've been preparing yourself, but
I think somewhere between a year and 6 months at this
so
point.
yeah, so you've taken the time to do it, where I see people now that are like picking up like a bow and like, well, just getting it tuned and let's see how this thing shoots and gonna go hunting next week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I just wish that people would be more, I guess, respectful, because I feel like
Yeah.
we owe it to the animals that we're hunting to be respectful towards them. And I hope that other people see that too. I hope that new hunters understand that it's not just about you going and killing something and saying, oh, I'm the mighty hunter, I'm the mighty killer, because that's exactly what you're doing, is you're killing something, you're taking something else's life. And I would hope that other people could respect, the animals that we're hunting enough to that they owe them that respect. They owe them, that, because I get pretty emotional every time I kill something. Most people I know do. A lot of people won't admit to it, and some people just have no emotion. And I'm an emotional person. I mean, I just took something's life, and I'm very appreciative to that. And that's what a lot of new hunters don't think about. And some of them are really sensitive to it at first. They're not sure if they can do it. And some of them don't even think about it. Like, yeah, I killed something, but I think we owe the respect to train ourselves enough that we are going to make a good shot, that we know how to make a good shot, that we know how to properly dress the animals and take care of the animals and hang them and do whatever else. So we're taking as much as we can from the animal that we took its life to. I mean, we owe it that, right? So that's the biggest thing too that I see that frustrates me with a lot of new hunters, that there's a lot of respect that goes into it, and that goes to say for, like, the BAJ stuff too, like the respect for our lands, our public lands. There's, it all kind of feeds back into itself, and it all kind of works its way back around. So I think the fact that you've been preparing yourself for a while now, and you feel confident, and I mean, you've been shooting and you feel confident in that. I'm sure you've done your research on killing animals and dressing animals. And I mean, you clearly feel confident enough. And
Oh, I've got every book and membership, yeah.
yeah, so I mean, you feel confident enough, and all the research that you've done that you feel confident enough to go out by yourself is saying a lot as a new hunter. So I mean, I think more people need to take the diligence that you have, as new hunters and do that, whether it's learning from other people or, asking questions or going out or, I learn from other people and I learn by watching other people, and that's how I learn. Some people learn by reading books, some people learn by hearing stories, whatever it is, just learn as much as you can.
Yeah, and that's not to say like you have to be perfect when you go out. Like there's no way you're going to get all the knowledge, but
Yeah.
to be confident in the basics and the necessities of what you're going out to do,
Yeah.
I think is definitely super important.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely tend to get caught up a little bit. Almost the same kind of thing with the gear, where it's like I'll get myself a little worked up to be like, oh, I don't know as much as I want. I mean, I know what I need to know to be able to go out, take an elk responsibly, and field dress it, get it back, everything. I know what I need to know.
Yeah.
There's definitely tons more that will increase my success and all of this, but to some extent, it's the same. Like I said, the same kind of thing with gear. I almost set the bar too high for myself, and I have to catch myself before I start letting it discourage me from going out.
I completely, because I do that same thing. All the time. I overthink it. I overthink every aspect of it. Like I'm to the point like sometimes where like I'll overthink. I'm like, do I actually know how to field dress an animal? Like, what am I doing out here by myself? Like I catch myself doing that stuff. And I'm like, I know how to do this. I know how to field dress an animal. Like I know how to butcher the dang thing. I know how to field dress it. I know how to do all this stuff. I know how to take care of the meat, but I question everything all the time because I feel like I'm like, can I responsibly take something else's life and feel like I'm actually know what I'm doing? So I question myself when I overthink it. And then sometimes I'm just like, okay, stick to the basics. Like get there when you get there, you know how to do it. It'll take over, your memory will take over. What you've like been through a million times will come back to you and it'll take over and you'll be good to go. Just chill. Like I have to remind myself to do that sometimes too, because I'm like too much overthinking. And like Jason knows that too. And I'm like, I don't know, because I was telling him about this antelope. I'm like, I'm overthinking. I'm like, I don't know if I'm even gonna go. And he's like, don't overthink it, just go. And so I just ended up being what I did. Like I had to make sure I was like, okay, I just have to get up early in the morning and go. And that's kind of how I pushed myself to do it. So
yeah, I'm at the point where I've got all my gear sorted for the most part. Like I'm waiting for like one last thing to come in the mail. It's not even important.
Yeah.
But all of that's kind of done. Like I've prepped all my food. It's like divided up and packed, and so now I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, crap. What now? I've got a whole week.
You're just anxious
and
now.
and so I'm like I said, I'm always listening to these podcasts and stuff, and it's I'm almost making things worse on myself because I've got all this idle time that's not taking up with immediate urgent tasks to get ready for the hunt.
Yeah.
And so I'm like finding reasons to make myself nervous about the trip, to where it's like, I'll listen to something. Something is, I'm not sure if you listen to the Rich Outdoors podcast he did with Elknut.
I don't know if I've listened to that one yet.
Oh man, it's a listen. It's like a 3-hour podcast. It's like a Joe Rogan level podcast there, but it has so much information. Like I had it recommended to me. I hadn't gotten to it yet on my list with him, but I would recommend it to absolutely anyone because it has so much information. You need to listen to it like 3 times.
Yeah.
But I'll start listening to it and I'll be like, oh, how am I ever going to be able to call in an elk now? Because I don't know all this. I'm like,
just don't
I know enough
overthink
to
it.
call in an elk.
Yeah.
I may not know enough to call in every single elk on the mountain.
Yeah.
Like Paul does, but
Paul's
I know enough
guy. Like, I mean, he is bad elk caller. Like, I'm actually like. Jason uses his bugle tubes and stuff. But
oh yeah,
he's an insane caller. Like it's awesome. Like there's the amount of knowledge this guy has.
It's bizarre. It's like a full. He knows the full language. Like, I mean, it's just you listen to him talk, and the knowledge that's just like packed into that brain amazes me. I'm like, I don't know how, but then, you know, you look at something you've been doing whatever it is for as long as he is, and how quickly you can access that knowledge with such little thought. It's gotta, that's what it's gotta be like. And, you know, hopefully we'll all get to that level with something to do with hunting one day, but
For sure. Yeah. No, I think you're good to go. I mean, honestly, calling elk, just don't overthink it. Like there's a million different things to do. And I think a lot of people like the information that he puts out there, I think is for people that have like hunted it for years and are starting to like get used to it and want more information, want to learn more, want to know how more. I think you're like at the point because I've called in stuff before and I'm like, I don't even know how the heck I just did that. Like that thing shouldn't have come in. That thing should have just gone running the other way. And for some reason they're coming in. I'm like, all right, they're just a stupid bull. Like, I mean, bulls during the rut are just dumb, like just big, dumb freaking animals. And so, yeah, I swear you can get away with a lot too. But I mean, I don't think you should be nervous at all.
Oh yeah.
I think
Well,
you're good.
that's all a product of this whole week of
I'm just
like,
driving yourself crazy.
oh, absolutely. And I've tried to ease off a lot of my like really hard physical preparation, so
Yeah.
I don't go into the backcountry starting off sore and tired.
Yeah.
And so I don't have that energy outlet as much as I did, and I've been busy, and so I haven't shot as much this week as I normally would like to, and so I'm just like, I'm this ball of anticipation that is verging on complete explosion. Like, it's
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I definitely understand it. But that right there, like that'll just get you like even more jacked up for it and more excited for it. So that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I am.
I'm excited for you. That'd be really cool.
Well, if people wanted to follow all of the adventures online, where the best places to hunt you down?
I'm mainly active on Instagram, and my Instagram's a little weird, but it's S80 number 80 underscore love, and it's basically my name, Sadie Love. So
I remember it wasn't until maybe about 3 days ago that I realized that.
yeah.
I'm a little slow.
No. Most people are like, what S80? What does that mean? I'm like,
I was thinking it was like a highway or something in Idaho. Like, no joke.
yeah, that's awesome. That's really funny. I like it.
I was like, is that like a highway by her hometown or something?
Yeah, sure. We'll go with that. It works for me.
Yeah,
That's
I need to find the S80 to get into Boise.
Perfect. Yeah, so it's just S80 underscore love LOVE, and then my Facebook is just Sadie Kennel. So I'm pretty active on Instagram though. I do a lot of stories and post a lot on there. So if anybody wants to follow that stuff, it's a good time. It's fun.
Awesome. Well, I will post up links to those on our show notes page. That's going to be livingcountryinthecity.com/34. Wow.
Awesome.
34.
Getting up there.
Every time I say this, almost every episode now, it's just like every time I read another episode number, I get super excited and amazed that I ever made it past episode 2.
That's awesome. You have good conversation, and I mean, and you're not afraid to admit that you're new, and you're not afraid to admit that you have questions, and that's freaking sweet because there's not anybody out there who does that, and it's so refreshing to hear.
Well, okay, here's my other thing about that too, that a little bit of that is self-serving, because when you present yourself as like this big bad that's like knows everything, well, you damn well better know everything and then be able to take an animal and walk the walk if you're going to talk the talk. I'm like, I got no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it puts a lot of pressure on me if I try and pretend to be this big expert.
Yeah. Perfect. I mean, and who knows? You might not kill something. You might kill something. It's a lot, and that's how I go into it every year. I might kill something. I might not kill something. That's hunting, man. That's how it is.
Yeah. Well, I bought a chest freezer, so I dang well better kill something.
Yeah, you need to fill that thing. I think I'm confident, and you know what? You can always shoot a cow because the meat's good at least.
That's that's what I figure. I've been going back and forth on. I'm like, okay, crap. So I see a cow like third day in.
Yeah.
Like, do I and I have a shot on it? Do I take it? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think I've kind of finally come to my decision, and who knows? This will all be out the window the second I hear my first bugle. I know. But I'm thinking like, okay, depending on how the hunt goes, I'm holding out at least for the first, if I'm 10 days including driving, probably actually hunting for 7.5 days, something like that. So, first 6 days, if I just absolutely am not seeing anything, not having any luck, not having any encounters at all, then yes, if I see a cow in those last 2 days, I'm taking that sucker. But
for sure.
Those that first week or whatever, that first chunk, I'm holding out. I don't care if it's a little spike or a raghorn. I don't care if it has horns. That's what I'm looking for. And that, I will admit, is fully the pride of being me. And
That's
I'm
awesome.
like, I want to take a bull. I don't care.
No, I get it. Like I feel the same way every elk season. I'm like, I'm gonna get a bull this year, but like I've had spikes walking from me. If I get a shot on the spike, I'm gonna take it. But it depends on how far I'm in too. Like if I'm like 5 miles in, I'm like, I'm not shooting a freaking spike to pack a spike 5 miles out. Like I'm gonna make it worth my while at least. And when I get stressed though, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm getting to the point. I'll shoot a spike. I'll shoot a cow. Like, do we need the meat? Do I not need the meat? Like right now, it's like the pressure of like, or not really the pressure of filling the freezer. It's like because we both shot elk last year. Jason shot a moose a few years ago. He shot a whitetail. I shot a mule deer. He shot an antelope just recently. So it's like we're still pretty dang good on meat. Like that's not. And I give a lot of it away too. We both do. We give a ton of it away. So like if we did happen to shoot something, if we both did, I mean, we'd just be giving it to family and be giving it away. So that's the nice part about it is we can help feed other people. But I mean, that's kind of what it gets to be is we can be a little bit more selective because we're not looking to fill the freezer. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've just finally kind of come to the decision, a cow walks by me on the first, second, third day, I'm probably not gonna take the shot.
Yeah.
Just because I want to see, one, I want to extend the hunt. I want an excuse to extend the hunt, and two, I just want to see if I can call in a bull.
That's awesome.
See it. And
yeah.
And right now, I talk a lot about setting measures of success and goals, and I mean, just having an encounter with a bull, I think, is a huge measure of success for me.
Oh, for sure.
Whether that's 200 yards and it spooks as I'm trying to get it in, or whether that's down to I get to draw on it, whatever that encounter is, but something that I can look at and be like, I had a serious experience and encounter with a bull. That would be a huge measure. That would be beyond like anything for me. So we'll see.
Heck yeah.
But
that'd be awesome. Well, good luck. I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Holler if you need help packing out anything. I'm around.
Definitely. I've got a couple of offers, so hopefully I will need some help.
Yeah, I'm hoping you will too.
But thank you so much for hopping on the show with me tonight. I appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, anytime. It was fun. It was fun. Yeah, for sure. Anytime you want to have a conversation and record it, I'm down.
Sounds good. All right, y'all, that'll do it for episode 34 of Living Country in the City. Make sure you head on over to my show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/34 to get those links to Sadie's socials, and go give her some love on Instagram. Make sure you follow along for all her upcoming adventures, which will hopefully be a little more successful than her archery antelope. Now, if you're not already subscribing to the podcast, make sure you don't miss out on a single episode by heading to your favorite podcast platform and searching for Living Country in the City. Also, if you visit any of our show notes pages, I'll have links out to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play Music, TuneIn, and Podbean, where you can subscribe to the podcast. Now, if you already are subscribing, please head on over to iTunes or Stitcher and leave a rating or review. It's really simple, it only takes a moment, and it helps the podcast grow like crazy. But in the meantime, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.
By the way, is it Kennel?
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to make sure it wasn't like Kennel or
Yeah, right.
something.
I know. I usually get asked that. They're like, is it like weird or is it just like straight up kennel? Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny.
Just this is Sadie. See, now in my head, I keep wanting to say it Kennel.
Right? Yeah.
I screwed myself.